All right, lads, welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball. Myself and Shane back here once again. What's the crack, Shane?
How are things? All good yourself?
Good, good, good. What were you at over the weekend? Any sports stand out to you?
No, I don't think there was any football on. The NFL was back, which was great, but I think, oh wait, no, our under 21s played. I think that was the only game of football that Ireland had on over the weekend, or
Anyone I saw,
midweek.
anyway.
Yeah, the only thing I saw as well. I don't think I remember anything else. So yeah, NFL
Yeah,
was great. NFL
solid
was,
win
yeah,
for the Ireland under 21s and solid bit of play from the Jets at least. So
yeah, yeah. The Jets looked better. Um, Still managed to conspire to lose it by doing something silly, but.
you win
Let's
some, you
see.
lose some.
Exactly. Unfortunately for the Jets over the last couple of years, you lose some and you lose some more. But I think this year
Yeah.
might be a bit better. We'll just have to wait and see. Bring on the Bills.
Yeah, looks like a good start. You'll hear a bit more about the Jets and Shane's hopes and definitely some takes on them playing the Bills later on in the episode. But a packed out episode for you once again. As usual, we started with the NFL this time around. We did week one overreactions. Obviously, you have to give your overreactions after just 1 week of football in a league that changes so much after every single week. But we did it, three overreactions each to start off the episode. We moved on then to chatting about football, another type of football, soccer. We had a chat about Nuno getting fired from Forest and Ange coming in as their new manager. Obviously, we were messing at the start about Ireland not playing because it was just abysmal, so we broke that down. For me, I was at the game against Hungary, so at least there was a nice moment there with the Ida goal. But yeah, let's leave the
Mm.
Armenia bit till later on. You'll hear us talking about that. We moved on and gone chance back once again. If you don't know what it is, we explained and we gave our three picks each. Then we moved back into the NBA where we continued our season previews with the Heat, the Hawks, and the Hornets. Triple H. No WWE for you though. And then
Yeah.
power rankings to wrap up. We gave back to our multi-sport power rankings, which we did last year. Also an explainer there if you need it for that, because it's back for the first time this season. So we each gave our picks there. Usually at the end, we do say about liking and subscribing, but I said I'll throw it in at the start this time because we would really appreciate it. It helps us a lot if you could subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Even if you just listen on the podcast app, just head over to YouTube and give us a subscribe and like a couple of our videos or leave a few comments. And vice versa, if you listen on YouTube, subscribe on the podcast apps and give us a 5-star rating, because we really appreciate all those things and it makes a big difference to us to kind of get more listens and views on it. So if you could take a minute or two to do that, we would definitely appreciate it. But that's enough of that for now. Let's get straight into the episode and enjoy what's ahead. All right, lads, where else to start but the NFL? Obviously, back for week one. It was a bit of a mad week overall, so it's only right that we not only react to things, but we do the thing that everyone does online and just overreacts to everything. So we're gonna give three overreactions each from the games we saw in week one. Things that you can draw a conclusion, but really there's no sample size there, but we're just gonna do it anyway. So Shane, go ahead. You go first. What was your first overreaction to week one?
So, like all good overreactions, I'm going to start by being biased as well. I think the Jets are. I think there's a really, really good chance that they're actually quite good. Their offense is brilliant. I thought it's the defense was a bit less good, but that's going to come together because obviously Glenn was a defensive coordinator. He knows what he's doing. I think they looked really, really good if they can keep that offense firing. The likes of Brees Hall went absolutely AWOL last night. I thought he was brilliant, and Braden Allen's a great backup to him. Um, Obviously Garrett Wilson was really, really good as well. Bar that one at the end, which I lost my mind over for 10 seconds, then realized that no one can deal with a train hitting him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really his fault. Justin Fields, 16 of 22, one touchdown, no interceptions, and 12 carries for two touchdowns. Nothing wrong with that. The only thing I think we need is finding an actual wide receiver too, because we really didn't have that at the weekend. Josh Reynolds was very underused, and if you are going to keep him as your as your wide receiver too, then you need to use him more. Warren was decent. I know he only had one catch, but it was for 20 yards, and he looked solid as well doing the blocking. So, yeah, the Jets are good. I'm glad I backed them to get to the playoffs because that's definitely going to happen now. And let's see where we go from here.
Yeah, I actually liked the look of the Jets as well. It was a great game between them and the Steelers, and I was
Mm.
surprised at how the Steelers managed to come back because if that was last year, they wouldn't. they would have capitulated, like, because they just didn't have anything really pushing them over the line like Rodgers did. But I think they do, yeah, they do need a better second receiver, but at the same time, if they're going to run the ball that much, then I think if you can open up the game with the run, then Wilson will get open down the field later on in the game. And Fields did find a way to get him, so that was positive signs overall. I thought the play was in general good. Like you said, the defense was pretty poor, but Will McDonald looked really, really good. So that's and Rogers really had a chip on his shoulder there, and obviously there was the fumble as well. So a few things didn't go your way. I think nine times
Oh,
out of 10 you probably win that game. So it's a good sign for the season ahead. Definitely, I think I'm willing
yeah,
to overreact with
that
you and say the Jets
fumble,
are good.
yeah, that fumble, like you just conceded a touchdown. Just keep it safe. Don't do anything silly. Keep the ball, and then give that up to, well, I think it was 20 yards from your own goal, and just one pass into the end zone. All of a sudden, they flipped the game on its head, and that was kind of it. Like, it's just silly things like that is what it seems to be like Jets luck, really, where things like that seem to happen, where the offense are playing so well, they can't do any more, and your touch or your kickoff returner just fumbles the ball. I know he's under pressure, but like it's his job to just hold on to the thing. Like
And then the poor
you
fella
really
gets
do. You
cut.
need to hold on to him. You can't fumble on kickoffs. Sorry.
I said the poor fella got cut then completely from the team.
Yeah. Well, he should have been cut before they didn't start, is what everyone was saying online anyway. So it's probably about time. But look, we'll see where we go from here now. But I was really, really enthused by him, and I think the Bills now is a really good chance to show what they're made of. Coming up against one of the top teams in the league, they're due a win against a big team like that, where they kind of say, "Look at us, this is us now." So we'll have to see how they do the weekend.
Yeah, I can't see them beating the Bills really at all, to be honest. But if they put up a fight and they're within like a touchdown, I think that's a good result because the Bills are on another planet. Like themselves and the Ravens are
Yeah, they're
fairly
outrageous.
untouchable. So I think even a good performance there. But let's keep the home team, the team that we support, going as our overreactions because I'm going on the Giants and defensive coordinator Shane Bowen should be fired. Like he's had it coming already. He's had it coming since last year because the way he utilized some of the players that they have is just unfathomable. Like it's hard to even wrap your head around what this man is thinking on the sideline. So they have four unbelievable talents on their defensive line in Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Dexter Lawrence. Together in the game. Guess how many times those four played together across the snaps in the whole game?
Twice.
No, it's a little
None.
bit more. It was eight, but only 8 times in
Yeah.
the whole game is absolutely outrageous. Like your four best talents, and you're only sending them after Jaden Daniels once or 8 times, sorry, in the whole game. You might as well have just done it once, to be honest. But then to add to that, Abdul Carter only played 54% of total snaps on defense. He made some plays on special teams with the blocked punt. He also had half a sack. They were lining him up on different locations. That was one thing I did like, that he kind of lined him up in the middle too, as well as off the edge. But Brian Burns was setting the edge multiple times in that game. He had 2 sacks, but he's too small to consistently set the edge. And he was getting found out, and a lot of times he was getting pushed around. Now, he had 2 big plays, of course, that was brilliant, but like consistently to do that, to have a forefront and have him on the edge, yeah, that just wasn't working for me. And Kayvon Thibodeau had a very good game. I was impressed with him, but overall, I think really, really bad. He didn't utilize what he had enough. Javon Holland looked like he was a bit lost in whatever system was out there after how much they paid him. So I don't know if he's really up to the task at all. It's obviously an overreaction to say a coordinator should be fired after one week, but last year was pretty bad as well, considering the talent they had, and they just cannot stop the run. And yeah, Chauncey Goldston is a big body they brought in. They barely even used him. Darius Alexander, third round pick. He was a healthy scratch, didn't play all game. It's just, I can't wrap my head around a lot of it, to be honest.
Yeah, as you said, I think it's been coming for a while that like the Giants are never going, well, they're not never, but they're at the moment they're not going to be going out there firing in 20 or 25 points. They just don't really, they don't seem to have it in them, especially with the quarterback situation in there as well. Russell Wilson looked
He's lost.
quite miserable to be perfectly honest. Yeah. So the fact that you have that talent on your defense to try and hold teams down, try and keep them under, maybe keep them under 15 to 20 points, then you're in with a chance. You're in the chance of any game you can keep a team to 15 to 20 points. But to underutilize them as much as he did is crazy, to be perfectly honest. Especially when, as you said, they're so talented, the four of them.
Yeah.
Thibodeau has had, I know he's had his struggles with injuries, but when he's fit and healthy, you just need to have him in there as much as you can. Um, and only using Carter 54% of snaps. I wonder if that's kind of
Yeah, he
welcome to
was
the
easing
league.
him
We
in a
want
little
to
bit.
bed you in early, or but even still, like you need to be using these lads to have any chance of doing anything. And they have to change the quarterback for next week, or if not next week, then the week after, because Russell Wilson, as you said, he's lost. He's
Yeah.
not up to it anymore.
I think to say things about the offense and Mike Kafka, like the offensive coordinator, he called plays before and he was so bad at it that Dayball took the play calling duties off him, and then now he's giving it back to him
Yeah.
again. A proper reaction is to say that he should be fired. That's not an overreaction. That's just, you can see that from a mile off.
Mm.
To say Wilson is not fit for this team, that's a proper reaction too. He was panicking. To be honest, the line was awful, the offensive line, but Thomas was missing, and a lot of times Wilson literally walked into pressure when he didn't have pressure on him. It didn't make sense. So
Yeah.
I think those things are just general reactions that make sense, but the overreaction for me is Bone, because I was not impressed with what he did and what he called. So that was my first overreaction. What's your second one?
I think Marvin Harrison is going to be the breakout star of the season.
Okay.
Now that's an overreaction if I've ever heard one. Five catches on six looks for 71 yards, an average of 14.1 and a touchdown. He just looked happier. Last year he was stropping around so much. He was stropping from week one. This year he looks so much better. He looks stronger. He looks faster. He caught the ball five times. I'd say, oh, geez, think he got it once or twice last year. He had that many catches. I had him in fantasy, and he continually let me down. We know about the likes of Brock Bowers. We know he's a star. We know Trey McBride is just going to keep going the way he's going. But I think Marvin Harrison, if they can use him the way they did in week one, he has the potential to go off this year and put up some serious numbers, because we know how talented he was. He was such a talent in college, and he just was kind
Yeah.
of. Kyler Murray really wasn't looking for him as much last year where he was. The amount of clips you'd see where he'd made a great run or ran a great route and just completely overlooked. So if they can use him to any sort of decent level this year, he could very easily put up 10 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, I like the call. I think the only thing that would hold me off saying that is Kyler Murray. I just don't trust him enough. I
Mm.
don't think he's a good enough quarterback. And I've said that for long enough. Now they did the job, but against a horrendous Saints team. And to be honest, Spencer Rattler threw a ball there that almost got caught and almost brought that game to overtime. So yeah, I think that would be the only thing that holds me back on that. But Harrison himself, I think he has enough talent to be a breakout star, definitely. I would just be a bit more worried about Kyler than anything else.
Mm.
My second
Especially
one then,
if a new game comes out.
yeah, yeah, if he's playing Call of Duty, that's another story. Straight away after the game, he was on live stream with FaZe, I think, some gaming streamer. I saw that on another show, that was like one of the first things he did, and he was telling them about how he had, apparently Kyler was like on the toilet all night the game before, or the night before the game. He had some bowel issues, so and he still got the win. So
Oh, the
yeah, fair play
boy.
to him anyway. My second one is the Lions look cooked. They did not look good at all. I know that's your Super Bowl winner pick. I would be beyond surprised if they win the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not writing them off after one game. I still think they'll. I had them to win the division. I'm not sold on the Packers yet. After one game, they were great, but Jordan Love is
Mm.
erratic, so we need more sample size with that. But I don't think they're good enough to win the Super Bowl this year, just because, like I mentioned when we talked about them, the brain drain from losing not only Aaron Glenn, but Ben Johnson, I think, was the bigger drop off, just a massive fall off. Previously, the offensive coordinator they had before Ben Johnson under Dan Campbell did not work at all. And now John Morton didn't look like he was up to the task. Whatever about the defensive side of the ball, they weren't amazing, but it was the offense that really, I think didn't look good. It looked sluggish. Goff was average. but they could not run the ball at all. They only had 46 yards in total on 22 attempts. They tried everything to get Jameer Gibbs going, throwing him the ball a number of times, but that didn't work either. And Frank Ragnow, who was pivotal to their success at center, him retiring in the offseason, I think that's a
Mm.
massive hit because obviously, if you have a good center, it makes a big difference. Not to go back to the Giants, but their center is useless. John Michael Schmitz, I don't know how
Mm.
he's even in the league, but Ragnow is a massive loss, and I think that will affect Goff too because he doesn't have his trusty center there. So, what's your opinion on this one?
Yeah, it looked a lot worse than I expected it to, obviously. I knew there was going to be some sort of teething problems. So you are changing the main core of the backroom team, really. Outside the head coach losing your offensive and defensive coordinator in the one summer, but sorry, the one off season it wasn't the summer, but I really didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was on Sunday night. They made the Packers look exceptional, and I think we'll find out in the next couple of weeks that they aren't exceptional. I think they're a good team, but as you said,
Low on
Jordan
the
Love can
Packers.
be very erratic. I don't know, I just
You're not sure yet.
never really. No, I'm just not convinced by him at all. I think they might have gotten the Lions at a really good time.
Yeah, I
We'll have to wait
agree.
and see now what they do next Sunday. But like you look at going into bringing it into football for a second. Like you look at teams that have made sure that changed their coach in the offseason in the Premier League. Like everyone's like, oh, it's a great time to play Burnley. It's a great time to play Liverpool because they're still bedding into basically, so they're bedding into new systems. They've another week now under these coaches. They've had a game of competitive football under their belts. So
Yeah,
we'll see with a bit more, kind of a bit more like, oh, we really need to knuckle down now. We'll see what they can do next week. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing to say they don't go out next week and score 46 points. It's
that's true.
unlikely, but they could very well go out and score 46 points next week.
Yeah, I agree with the Lions. It's always something that is in the back of your mind they could really turn back around. But yeah, again, it is a massive overreaction. But it's just something I gathered from that game, and we'll really find about the Packers as well as another point tonight. Obviously, you guys will know the score of that game when you listen to this. They're playing the Commanders tonight, which is a massive game for both teams, I think, to be honest.
Mm.
So yeah, that's a big one, but both teams have big ones, I think. So let's move on then to your third and final overreaction.
The Cleveland Browns defense is going to save them this year.
Well, how would you define save them? What's it gonna do?
They're going to win more games than we expected them to because their defense is going to stop so many teams from putting up any sort of points.
Yeah,
They probably will need to move on from Joe Flacco straight away because, gee, that was horrific. But they held Joe Burrow to 113 passing yards and they kept his top targets pretty much out of the game. Geez, he killed me in fantasy. Miles Garrett, I thought was absolutely incredible. They held the Bengals to just 7 yards in the first two quarters.
in
Like
it was
you
in the
don't do that
second
to Joe
half.
Burrow. In the second, sorry, yeah, yeah, sorry. So they held it again in the second half to just 7 yards. Now I know at that stage they were kind of just playing like this isn't our day. We just need to stay this point ahead, and they were probably a bit safe with it. But I couldn't believe like just how good the Browns defense was, and I know you've always been a big fan of the Browns defense. You think they're quite good. It's the offense where the issue is. But if they can do that to Joe Burrow, they can do that to 20 or 21 other quarterbacks in the league comfortably. So like we'll have to wait and see what they do. I still think they're going to be useless. They're going to have by far probably the biggest, the worst record in the league. But I think they were really, really good for week one.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that they will actually really show out this year, and obviously the Bengals offensive line is pretty bad, but Joe Burrow consistently finds ways to get out of that, and he usually doesn't have that big of an issue with it. And you saw there was like two Miles Garrett sacks in a row, and then on the third snap, somebody else sacked Joe Burrow again just outside their own end zone.
Mm.
Like so, that was almost a safety, and that could have flipped the game as well. So, if you're going to hold massive offenses to only what was it they had 17 points, 16 points.
113, yeah, 17 points there, yeah,
Yeah.
113 yards of offense.
So that's amazing. Like, and obviously I had Jamar Chase in fantasy as well, which was a big letdown in one of my leagues. I had him.
Didn't cost you though.
Yeah, that was in that league. I won the game, and also in our league, I got a decent win, and you got absolutely ruined.
Oh,
Shane lost
I
on the
still, I was watching it back. I still can't believe it happened. Like, what are the chances? And there's so many players on the pitch. All he needed was him to just not do that. How he's just thrown away a fumble like that, -2 points, lose by half a point. Oh, it was
yeah
no, it's my own fault for starting Loveland as well over
yeah. I thought that.
anyone really.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I too. Ah, yeah, shambles.
I think well, what happened is I don't know if you guys have seen, but at the end of the Bears game against the Vikings, they tried like the whatever that play is
Laterals.
where you do all the laterals. There's a funny name for it. Somebody has, but I can't remember what it is. Pitchy pitchy woo woo. That's it. And they had that, and DJ Moore tried the woo woo and fumbled the ball, and it's just the game is already over. Like, and you lose 2 points on that. Yeah, that's fairly sickening. But anyway, we'll move on then to my my last overreaction. I've got Bo Nix might not be that good. He looked like shell shocked by the Titans defense, which is okay. I've said multiple times that I kind of like them, but they're not like one of the best in the league. We need to see a lot more of them, but 25 of 40 for only 176 yards and two interceptions against this team is very, very bad.
Mm,
He also had a fumble. The defense was superb for the Titans in the game, but the defense for the Broncos was even better. It bailed them out massively. And both of these players look like rookie quarterbacks. To be honest, Nix looked like more of a rookie than Cam Ward did.
mm.
And you can't rely on the defense heavily all season, like to that extent where they have to bail you out in every game because you're going to come up with against way more teams that score more than 12 points. And if you play like that, you probably won't get the ball back as many times as you did against most teams. So massive improvement needed, and the sophomore slump has already started with him.
Yeah, I would love to have something come back at you this year, but um I have him in another one of my fantasy leagues, and I was banking on him being my kind of my big quarterback this year because I failed to get in anyone better. And when I was watching him, I was like, oh God, I need to go and just take anyone because he looked, as you said, he looked shell shocked. He looked like it was his first game in the NFL, and after he's a season down, and he was quite good last season as well. So it was strange to see him look like a deer in the headlights so many times on Sunday. Again, it's week one. He might just be getting up to speed, might be getting up to fitness. There's so many reasons that could happen, but it was a really wasn't a promising look for him with how bad he was. And the Broncos looked, as you said, the defense looked really good. So if they could get the offense up to speed, then they could be the division winners that I backed them to be. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I couldn't believe how bad he looked in the bits of pieces I saw of the game.
Yeah, I think last year as well, early on, they were whatever way they were playing, it didn't really suit him. And then they called a lot of quite simple offense, you would say. And I think that worked for him a lot better. But that's not like teams are going to figure that out quickly, and better teams than
Mm,
the Titans are going to punish you. So unless he can be more than kind of one dimensional, has to play in the exact way the game is drawn up before it even starts, then they're gonna have a problem on their hands there, I think. But yeah, those are our overreactions. Let us know what you think if there's anything ye thought was crazy that you thought, wow, this warrants a big reaction after just 1 week. Let us know in the comments because we'd love to hear yours too. But we'll move on to another type of football now. English Premier League talk and a little bit of something about Ireland as well.
mm.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to address that, but we'll start with a big move in the manager market in the Premier League. So Nuno Espirito Santo gone from Forest and Ange Postecoglou in. In my opinion, this is just a ridiculous situation that's unravelled here in Nottingham. First European qualification in 30 years, built one of the most solid defensive teams in the league, and did a lot more with a lot less than Ange did at Spurs. And yet, he's the one that's brought in, and you throw away one of the best managers in the league. It's really some I can't wrap my head around even a bit of it. I think it's one of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a long time.
I think. Mr. Marinakis to give him his full titles. He's backed the wrong horse here by backing Edu over Nuno.
Yeah,
This will come back and bite him. I love Ange. I didn't love some of his comments last year, but I thought he was brilliant at Celtic. He made Celtic look like a really good team, really watchable. His first season at Spurs to start, they were excellent, and I can see why he's the man they've gone for. If you are sacking someone, that's Joe. He's just been sacked, just won Europa League. CV looks quite good, trebles and doubles, left, right, and centre. But getting rid of one of the best managers in the league, in my opinion, I think you have the same opinion. To bring in someone that had his team finish 17th last year just to win a trophy to prove a point for himself is mental. Um, I honestly I can't get my head around any bit of it. All this came because Nuno said they didn't speak as much as they did last season, and that happened because Teo when he collapsed his lung running into the post, and he wasn't looked at quick enough by the medical staff or some nonsense like that along those lines. That's when the relationship fell apart. And then Nuno wanted him to be backed, and they didn't do it till like the last game, last day of the summer when Nuno wanted him in at the start of July. I completely understand why he was so annoyed with how things were going. And if you're going to sack a manager because they get annoyed at you, then Ange is going to last 2 weeks.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
and him are going to butt heads, and it won't take long. I know they were poor against West Ham in their last game. They lost 3-0 last game before the international break. But you know what? Freak results like that happen to teams. Though the teams in the Premier League are so tightly grouped, it's incredible. Like if you take out maybe the top three or four, anyone can beat anyone. I joined the last man standing today. I was looking at the games to pick a team.
It's
And
nearly impossible.
at least seven of the 10 games you can't touch. You literally cannot touch them because everyone is so like evenly matched. Like, oh God, how can you back Everton to beat anyone, Joe, unless they're playing Sunderland? But even then, you're like, oh, Sunderland have a good start. So it's like you can lose 3-0 to West Ham. Liverpool could go out and lose 3-0 to West Ham as well. Like, Joe, it's very easy to do in this league. And just go and sack him after that then is beyond me. It really is.
Yeah, I think that like you mentioned it already, but when they hired Edu, that really put the first initial spanner in the works because
Mm,
I think there was I think Nuno wasn't happy with the fact that he had to go through Edu to get to Marinakis now.
yeah.
And I think Nuno wanted a smaller squad in general, but he obviously did want reinforcements. But I think the fact of the matter was, like you said, they didn't get them in soon enough. And then Edu was the one who pushed them all and got the guys he wanted. Whereas they should have consulted Nuno and found out who he wanted early and built. If he wanted a smaller squad, then build what he wanted because he's clearly a very good manager and he knows what he's doing. And to the point about Ange, like I don't think he's a good manager for the Premier League at all because he's going to play the way he wants to play. They won the Europa League last year. The football they were playing in that competition was puke. Um,
So different to the
and
football they played in the Premier
he's
League.
not going to do that again. He's going to get to a new team and he's going to say, "I'm playing the way I want to play." The team is not built to play like that. They're the furthest from it, possibly, I'd say, out of any team in the league, maybe barring Burnley. And he's going to come in there and try and change everything, play the way he wants. And it's not going to work because it didn't work at Spurs and they had a much more talented squad. Yes, it worked at Celtic against hopeless opponents in the Scottish
Mm.
League and it worked when he was in the J League and when he was in Australia. But that style of play is not going to work with this squad. Like he's not a good enough manager to manage one of the top teams that has good enough players to play this way. And managing a lower level team, they're never going to be able to adapt to this. I'm just of the opinion that this is not going to work at all, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Anybody that gets Nuno in is extremely lucky because he's a very smart manager and he can make
Mm.
a lot out of pretty much nothing. So yeah,
Yeah,
Marinakis,
I agree.
Mr.
Yeah,
Marinakis, got a job.
yeah, I agree with you on that. That if he comes in, as you were saying there about the football Spurs played in the Europa League was completely different to that they played in the Premier League, but he never brought that into the Premier League. He didn't have a plan B in the Premier League, and his plan A in the Europa League, he never switched from that either. It was just, as you said, puke football, just literally cup football. Let's go and win this. You can't do that for 38 games in the league. I can't imagine Milenkovic and Murillo playing a high line on the halfway line. And then Ole is up touching the corner flag, and whoever they have in at left back is doing whatever he wants as well. I don't see how this is going to work. I agree with you. I want Ange to do well. in spite of Marinakis and not for him. I do. I have a soft spot for him, so I'd love to see him go well, but I just don't see how it does. The signing they've made, like they've signed so many number tens to
Mm,
play in like a two behind the striker, which is the system they flirt between that and the 4-2-3-1 every now and again. So they have Murray Hutchinson, McAtee, Gibbs White. They have Dan Ndoye, he's an actual winger. They have
mhm.
Callum Hudson-Odoi, he's an actual winger. Outside of those two, there's no pace in the team really. Like Chris
Yeah.
Wood is the main striker up
They
top. I just
signed
don't
that right
see.
winger, Dakwa, is it? And that was the only one. But again, he doesn't fit into that two behind the
Yeah.
striker because he's a wide man. So
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what he does. I presume he'll be in charge this weekend, so we'll see what kind of a system he goes with. But
mm,
I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. I really wish we could go back and change our Premier League predictions now because there's so many teams that have let me down to start already. Villa are another one that
yeah,
I'd love to have a dig at them as well, but we might do that next week if they lose again this week. But I just can't believe some of the goings on in the Premier League over the summer, and this one is the maddest of them. I thought the
yeah.
transfer window was mad enough, and now this is happening. Like God,
Just to
Premier League is
happen
becoming a
after the
soap
window.
opera.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like the entertainment factor off the pitch is what they're going for more than anything.
Yeah.
Like these owners and the way everything like. And to be honest, I read an article. To be honest, don't ask me why I read it on Sky. I wanted a short one. I was like, I don't want to go into the athletics write up
Yeah.
on whatever about Marinakis because, to be honest, he gets enough of my time, like seeing videos or seeing researching for this, whatever. I'd rather read long form about interesting things. So it's
Mm.
like, give me something quick there on the Edu relationship with Nuno. Clicked into the first one on Sky, and it was like someone was hired as a Marinakis PR man for Sky. The way it was written, it was crazy, but yeah, that's another situation as well. Let's move on then to something that was crazy too, but is a bit more close to home and hurts the heart. Is Ireland? Unless you're living under a rock, you'll know that Ireland in their two qualifying games for the next World Cup, they're pretty much out of contention already after two games. First game against Hungary, an abysmal 45 minutes to start the game. Second half, much more fight in them, home crowd got behind them. I was at the game. It was a really good moment to have that goal at the end, but shot yourself in the foot in the first half, and because of that, didn't get anything else other than a draw at home. And then Armenia, just atrocious. Like Armenia are one of the worst teams in the qualification. They've recently been beaten by Faroe Islands. Most of their team plays in the Armenian league. Not to say that that's the worst league in the world, but it's certainly worse than the Premier League, where a good few of the Irish players do play well on a weekly basis,
And
and then
captain.
they come
Captain
and
their
captain,
teams.
and then there's no leadership. They look like they've never played football before. I'm just disgusted by it. I think they should all be ashamed for the effort some of them put in for their country.
Yeah, so four of the players that started that game are club captains. Nice, Cullen, O'Shea, and Collins.
Yeah.
None of them put their hand up and said, "This is on me." I honestly think, and I was looking back over because one of the lads said to me that it's one of the most embarrassing Irish performances that he's seen. And I went back and I think it might be the most embarrassing performance I've seen in recent memory. And really going back to the Cyprus game, the 5-2 Cyprus game might be up there. But they scored two goals there.
Yeah, it's worse
So
than the
like
Luxembourg
the
one as
one
well.
the oh completely, yeah. Like the goal they scored for Ferguson, the pass wasn't meant for him.
Hmm.
He's we just don't deserve him. He's just a freak. He's the only one. I don't understand how Colin is so good week in, week out for Brentford and comes to Ireland and forgets how to play football.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Um, Using the long throw that
Oh
was never going
my
to work.
God.
We didn't get any long throw near us. Using that because it works and because the Premier League have tried it for the first 3 weeks. Let's try that now.
Mm,
I couldn't believe what I was watching. I really couldn't. And Kevin Doyle on the TV as well was as exasperated as I've ever seen a man on television. He was ready to burst at times, like talking
yeah.
about it. And I was the same sitting at home. I was like, oh my God, I was like,
He was
what is
holding
going
it
on?
in so
They
much.
couldn't string passes together. They
No.
couldn't string passes together. Armenia played through us like they were bloody Brazil. Like it was absolutely horrific to watch start to finish. They were so bad. Ferguson
Yeah.
had that one chance in the first 5 minutes, and after that, it was just it was like watching a pigsty just running around in circles for the rest of the game. Then I know the pitch was heavy. You could see it from the start. The pitch was just ripping up.
Yeah, but
The
they're
pitch was
playing on the
ripping up
same
left, right, and
pitch.
centre. But both teams, exactly. both teams have the same thing, and they were able to pass show us. Like they hit the bar, they had the goal ruled out for an offside of an inch. It could have been far more embarrassing. 2-1 flattered us
Yeah.
against
Oh, we should have
Armenia.
lost 5 or
It
6
was
1.
just
Honest to God, we should have lost 5 or
yeah,
6 1 at the very least because they created so many chances. And like you said, the passes that were just played through us, like some Armenian fella who, he's sitting there deep in his half and they're giving him the space as if he's Rodri. Like the amount of space they're giving him, they're scared to go near him because oh God, he might play a good pass. Well, what's going to happen then? You're supposed to be tight at the back if you do that. Oh no, we won't be tight at the back. We'll just stand wherever we want to be honest, because it doesn't really matter. This is Armenia.
it's
Well, it is
Armenia.
Armenia, and
Yeah.
they slapped you around. They absolutely slapped you around. So they deserved what
Where
they got.
yeah. Where this group of players got the audacity, and that's what I think it is. I think they got the audacity thinking, oh, good result at home now. We've come back from 2-0 down. We can just go over here and show up. Like, lads, we're Ireland. We've never been able to go anywhere and just show up. We can't go to the Faroe Islands and just show up. Was it the Faroe Islands that we beat 1-0 in the fog when Jeff Hendrick scored? Was that the Faroe Islands?
Yeah, I think so.
Or no, that was Gibraltar, sorry.
It
No,
was,
away to
yeah.
Gibraltar.
Yeah, just
We can't
the
go away
one
to
goal.
Gibraltar and just show up. Like, when have we ever? We've never been able to go away anywhere and show up, especially in the last 5 years. And
Hmm.
this group of clowns, oh, I
That's
just
all you can
the
say.
the only thing he did that was good was not start Matt Doherty. That was the only
Yeah.
positive I can take from that game. I just they drive me insane. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I really couldn't. They were embarrassing.
Yeah. And
Properly embarrassing.
when Liam Scales warmed up, you were like, "Oh, bringing on
Oh my
Scales like
God.
makes no sense for a defender." I said, "Well, it's fair enough if they bring him on for Collins or O'Shea because they both look spent and the amount of space at the back. Then they take off Manning and
Joy
put him
Manning,
left
yeah.
back." Ah,
And put
lads, I
Jacob
was
Ryan right
thinking you
wing.
must be joking.
Put Jacob Ryan right wing instead of putting him in the box. He's 6'6".
Yeah, and he
Put
was
him in the
crossing in
box and
balls in the whole first game
yeah.
too. He was like the most advanced player on the right hand side the whole game.
If you're going taking off your left back to go three at the back, put Jacob Ryan in the middle and bring Adamida out right because he can cross the ball into
Yeah.
Jacob Ryan then. The corners were pathetic. The throw-ins were pathetic. There was no style to play. There was no pace to play. Everything was so slow. The one time they had any sort of urgency, they scored, and it was a fluke of a pass through. It was aiming for Jason Knight to run through and balloon it over the bar. It was lucky it fell to Evan Ferguson. I knew after 15 minutes we were losing that game, and I think everyone
Yeah,
else
I
was
had
the
the
same as
feeling
that.
of it. I had the feeling of it. And apart from Ferguson, who put in two great shifts in both of the games and clearly has a lot of talent, and
Mm,
Kelleher, who made way more saves than he should have ever needed to against Armenia and also against a 10-man Hungary team, he kept us in that one too.
mm.
So we're lucky to even have a point, to be honest, after those two abysmal performances. The only hope we can have now at this point is if they sack that manager because he's not going to get anything out of this team. There's no way whatsoever. And if they do sack him, get in somebody else and pray to God that Armenia get a point against Hungary or something. And then after that, we need to get a point against Portugal. All of this is pure, like,
Not
fool's
happening.
wishes. It's not
Yeah,
happening. But at least, if they did get rid of him, I would have some sort of drive in me to want to go to the two games that are left because I'm after buying tickets for all three of them. No wonder they sell a three-match packet
yeah, but
because after seeing the thing in the first two games, you wouldn't even wipe your backside with a ticket now if you got it. Like
I
it
was reading
makes
up about
no
that as well.
sense.
I was reading up about that as well. The FAI are so deep in debt they can't afford to sack him. They're selling games in 3 game packages because they can't afford to not. They can't afford to sell the games one at a time. The League of Ireland, the prize fund is 125 grand if you win it. Like the Rovers in Shelburne are doing well in Europe in spite of the FAI. And I know I've said that twice now and I can't say it again, but
It's true.
like they're not doing well because the FAI are helping them. They're doing well because of what they're building themselves. And then the FAI are probably going to come along and take half the money off them. They'll make up some tax or something to get this money out of the two clubs. They can put it towards their own debt. No, the whole just top to bottom. And then the 21s weren't even that good. I know they won, and
Mm,
there's some really talented players in that, but they weren't very good either. I
yeah.
watched the
And then
first
who
half of
got the
that.
winner? Only a Shamrock Rovers player as
Yeah,
well.
Shamrock Rovers, yeah.
So we're
Assisted by Trent Coney-Doherty as well, who looks the right talent too, not just because he plays for Liverpool. He was so direct when he came on. It's the same way he is for the 21s, but Michael Noonan comes on. He's incredible. 17.
Class.
And his finish was absolutely class as well.
Yeah, he's a
So,
very good. He is a very good. But like you said, the FAI is no help for the League of Ireland at all when they really do need it because now is the time to capitalize when people
yeah,
are going to games more. There's more support. The teams are better, and people know some of the teams now because they're getting into Europe a number of seasons now. And if we have two teams in it this year, it's huge. But they're not going to back them because, as you said, they're falling over the place in debt and yeah, it's there's nothing really can be said that like we have a dentist as a manager for a reason because they have
yeah.
no money. So that's
It
the
took them
issue.
7 months to find him. 7 months they were looking for a new manager after sacked Stephen Kenny, and that was the best they came up with. And then said, "Oh, he was our first choice. If he was your first choice, it wouldn't have taken you 7 months to talk him into the job." Anyway,
Yeah,
let's move on. I can't keep going because I'll end up burst a blood vessel or something.
yeah, it's too much. It's too much. And for the fandom as well, don't deserve this for all the years of it and all the false hope then as well for just all the stuff he said before the games, as
Mm.
if we actually thought, yeah, we're gonna have something. But yeah, let's
Well,
move
I
on.
did. I put
I
him
did.
into my bloody top
Yeah,
five
you
teams to
had
win the
them
World
in your
Cup.
top teams.
And then you went and posted it last night. I wish that one should have stayed in the draft, James. Is all I can say. But anyway,
Look, it had to be done. You get some reactions out there as well. We had some fella, I think, with two Union Jacks
yeah,
in his title replying on
I should never
TikTok.
watch
So,
football again.
yeah,
Apparently,
yeah, all right,
second
yeah,
time in a
thanks.
couple of weeks I've been told that now.
It's just the haters. Just block out those haters and
Yeah.
show them what you're made of. Back with Gone Chance. Here we go.
Yes.
Season 2 of Gone Chance. Shane was the winner last year.
Sorry,
If you
say
don't
that
know
again. I
what
didn't hear you.
Shane was the well-deserved winner last
Yeah,
year.
that's more like it.
Let's go through the rules in case you didn't know what it was and you didn't hear it last year if you're new to this. But basically, it's a thing we do every week. On chance means basically no chance in Irish. We're picking teams that are underdogs or teams that aren't expected to have a chance to win their games. So when the NBA is back, we'll do one from the NBA, one from the Premier League, and one from the NFL. But for now, it's just NFL and Premier League. So we pick two from one of them and one from the other, whichever we like. The rules of picking the teams then you have to pick against a team that is odds on. So let's say for an example, the Bills are playing against the Jets on the weekend. The Bills are like 1 to 6 or something to win on the money line. Then you go, oh, I'm picking the Jets. Shane Smirk tells me he's done this. He's a nutter. So let's hold off on that for a second. That's just an example. You have to pick a team against somebody that has odds-on favorite to win. Obviously, in the NFL, we're going money line. Premier League handicap betting isn't really used that much. It's mostly money line bets. So usual crack there. Obviously, we know one of Shane's picks based on his facial reaction, so we will let him go first. Shane, take it
Um,
away.
I'll start with the surprise. So I have gone the Jets at 9-4 to beat Buffalo 1-3. With the way they played week one, there's potential. And as I said when I was talking about them earlier, they're in line to get a win against one of these big teams. While morale is high, why not just back them in this week? 9-4. Don't back it if you have any sense. Don't do what I just did. But I just said, why not? Show them in here. If it works out, I'm a genius. I'll be allowed to watch NFL according to your man on TikTok, and I can just get on with my life then. After that, I've gone with West Ham to beat Spurs at their home stadium. So West Ham are 12-5, Spurs are evens. I
Okay.
really liked what I saw against Forest. I still don't think they're anything special, but they just look like an actual team against Forest again. And first game back at the international break at home, bit of a rivalry here between these two as well. So I thought at 12-5, I think you just had to have a look at it to be honest. And then the other one I've gone with is another derby. I backed United to beat City. Um,
Oh,
City are 7-10, United are 17-5. City just look broken. And they've looked broken against Brighton, they look broken against Spurs. United have pace up front in Mbeumo and Cunha. They have, if they have any bit of fight in them in midfield, they can overrun that City midfield because Rodri will fall off after 60 again, I feel, or 70 anyway, and they might need to substitute him like they didn't do against Brighton, and they should have. And United, I think United can just get better at this. They have the most XG in the league, as we said last week, I think. Maybe this is
mhm.
the week where it comes together and they put the ball in the net. If United go 1-0 up, I don't see City coming back now. Erling Haaland did score 5 goals and get 2 assists the other night, so he's going to be coming back in the flyingest form anyone has ever been flying in. But I just think if he doesn't have the help around him, then there's not much he can do on his own. He only touches the ball 12 times a game. So yeah,
Yeah,
I backed United to beat City.
nice. I think with Delict on Haaland, he won't probably have as easy a time as he did against Moldova, where he
Mm.
had to apologize to the goalkeeper for scoring that many times. I think he said to the keeper, "I have to do it to get the goal difference up." So,
But
yeah, that's
he also gave away a penalty to Tellerwesgard to get his hat trick, so he could have had six.
oh, double hat trick. Yeah, but I actually really like the shout of United. I just think I agree that City are not looking solid at all. They look very, very shaky. I picked them to win the
Mm.
league. That's one thing I would love to go back and change because I'm shocked with how much a Pep team has shown that they don't really know what they're doing at times. And the Brighton game was a complete capitulation. Spurs dominated them. So I think, yeah, United could definitely go and get a result at the Etihad, at the empty had. So that's why I've
This,
also gone for it.
yeah.
I've
Oh,
also gone
nice.
for United to do it. I actually just think that United have been better than they've shown so far, and City have probably been worse than they've shown, and they've shown pretty badly already. They were
Mm.
lucky against Wolves to win so handsomely. But that's my first one. My other two, then I've also done what you've done and gone to NFL.
I
Oh
did
no,
one
sorry, you
NFL.
went to Premier League.
Yeah.
I'm going the opposite to you. I've got then the Jags to beat the Bengals. The Bengals had a really slow start, as they always do. They're always
Mm.
slow for the first three games, and as we mentioned, they only had 7 yards of offense in the second half against the Browns. The Jags are a lot better team than the Browns. I don't still not sold that they're amazing yet, but I think at 31-20, I think it's worth a go on the Jags there because I'm not sold on the Bengals at all, and I would definitely take the handicap win for the Jags, whatever it is, 2.5 or 3.5. But I'm going to take them here on the money line. And then my second one is the Seahawks to beat the Steelers. I know the Steelers beat the Jets, but I really liked how the Seahawks played for the majority of the game against the Niners. I know they weren't amazing on offense and they couldn't really get the run game going, but I think they will. We saw what the Jets did on the ground to the Steelers. They ran all over them. And Darnold was a bit unlucky with that fumble late in the game. And apart from that, he was okay. And the Seahawks defense was causing a bit of confusion. I think they'll cause a lot more confusion for Rodgers than they did last week. So those are my three picks: the Jags, Seahawks, and United. So as usual, if you get one or two right, you get a point for each. But if you get all three right, you get 5 points. So we're keeping this going till the end of the season. Obviously, keeping the score. The treble, if you did what I had, is 26-1. So if you're interested in that, have a look at that too. So that's
Uh,
our chance.
just two things before we move on. Did you give the odds on the Seahawks? I don't think you
Yes,
gave the
they're
odds.
7-5. Sorry.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. And you said you would take City off top if you could go back in time. Would you put Liverpool or Arsenal in as your winner after what you've seen after 3 games?
After three games, I definitely, without a doubt, put Liverpool as the winner. They didn't even play that well in most of their play,
All
but
three of the games.
they still got the wins, which is what a
Mm.
champion does. And for that fact alone, I would go with them because they're only going to get better. So yeah, I would move them up, and I would probably actually put Chelsea in second. They're very impressive, and I had them
They've
above
been good,
Arsenal,
yeah.
in my prediction, and I think I would just move City down and I'd move everyone else up one. So I'd do the thing, but yeah, can't be done. So that's our picks anyway for the first week of Gone Chance. Let us know if you like them. Let us know if you tail any of them, and let's come back next week and see who's on top after week one. Okay, okay. Relax. One crown after a 6 month season. Let's see who comes out on top after a full year. But I have a lot of catching up to do from last year. I need to sort myself out and not let it go so far behind earlier on like I did last year.
Mm.
You had like 3 or 4 5 pointers really early, and that really killed me off. So let's still hunt in my first 5 pointer. Let's hope it's this weekend.
Yeah.
NBA time. Let's continue to review or preview three teams. We're going to continue to do this until the season starts, and we'll have a full season preview then with Michael. We love to have him on for the NBA stuff, so we'll have that coming at you in October. But this week we've got the Miami Heat as our very first team. So where do they need to improve most from last season in your eyes?
So their 4 point execution was awful last year. Start to finish in the fourth quarter, they were awful. Their veterans underperformed throughout. Their younger players didn't grow enough. But I think in the fourth quarter in particular, they were really bad. They need their bench and their role players to really contribute more towards the end of games this season if they're going to have anything that's going to be anything that's even going to look like it's decent.
Yeah, I thought in general the offensive spark wasn't there, just in terms of scoring at all. And we saw that clearly in the Cavs game. Sorry, the Cavs series in the playoffs where they pretty much got played off the floor in three quarters of each game. So even that fourth quarter didn't even matter at that point, but still they were very poor in terms of their scoring in the league. Regular season, 110.6 points per game, and the seventh worst in the entire NBA.
Mm.
Really, really bad. And yeah, I find it hard to see where it's going to come from, but that is something that they need to improve on massively for me. Under the radar player, then, which is one guy that you like for the team for the season ahead?
So I liked Nikola Jovic. Um, Last season, he played 25 minutes a game, averaged 11 points, but he only made 10 starts in his 46 appearances. Um, he's still young. He has time to grow. He showed quite a bit of promise last season. He's big. He could really develop into a piece that they can use more regularly this season coming. Maybe give him a few more starts, see how he goes from there, because 11 points in 25 minutes off the bench isn't terrible. But he definitely needs to get up to 15 or 16 if he's going to be coming off the bench and if he wants to push for a starting place.
Yeah, I like Jovic as well, and I think he was hit a little bit by injuries. I think he could be good, and
Mm.
it was talk when they were like looking around Durant and the likes of these guys that they kind of said that he was off the table as somebody they didn't want to trade away. So I find that interesting too. I've gone with Davion Mitchell. I already kind of was peddling him during the playoffs as one of their best players. I'll continue to make the same argument. I think he gives them a lot. He's an engine, and if he can consistently drive at defenses during games and wear down defenses, and kind of use his physicality to get into the paint and make people second guess what's going on. That will open up things then in the fourth quarter, which kind of ties in with your point that they'll improve then in the fourth quarter. He'll be able to dish out more passes, he'll be able to score himself. Just that relentless play kind of does tire
Mm.
teams out. 10 points, three boards, five assists, and 1.5 steals per game last year on 31 minutes. That was just with 30 games with the Heat. I think a full season under his belt with Spoelstra, he'll make a very solid player out of him. And I think he does like him a lot as well. So he's a nice kind of utility guy there that probably is better suited to a better team because he can definitely contribute at a high level, but he'll still do good things for the Heat, I think. So looking at
Yeah,
their
I agree
wins
with you
then,
there. It's a good shout.
38 and a half is the line. They had 37 last year. It's really hard to know, in my opinion. I think with them, it's hard to know that with the roster they'll have, they might go and try and do a reset and a rebuild, but it's not a Heat thing to do. And I really don't see them doing that. And for that reason, I'm going to just go a shade under. I don't think they have
Mm.
enough to do any better than this. So I'm going with around the same as last year, maybe 37, 36, because I think until they really do a proper rebuild or get in a big trade, which I don't have that many assets to even do that anyway, they're kind of in no man's land here. So I'm going to stick with similar to last year.
I've gone the opposite. I've gone a shade over. I think they'll be under 40 wins, so 39 or 40, but I think they might just scrape it. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they were in with you. 36 to 38 does seem very likely, but I think they might just have enough to just squeeze into 39, 40 win territory.
Yeah, that's one that I'll never bet on because last year they did hit under, but history would tell you that they get a lot out of a little. So it's kind of hard to go against them, but it's also kind of hard to go for them. So the line is a really nice place there. Then in terms of the ceiling for the roster and coach, what do you think for the year ahead? What's the max they can do?
I think they can get a play in or a very low playoff seed. And I think anyone who plays them in the playoffs will have a tough time because if their defense can hold up and the young lads kick on a small bit, then they could be a match for anyone. But I don't think they'll win a playoff series, but I think they could get into a play-in.
Yeah, I actually have gone a little bit mad. You'll think I'm mad here, but I said they could get a fifth seed if everything goes right. I just think Spoelstra is that good of a coach that I don't think they will, but if everything does go right, there's no reason to say that they won't get that because he's known to do things that are very special with a little, as I said already. And if Bam and Tyler Hero can really step up, they could get to a fifth seed and knock out a weak fourth seed in the first round of the playoffs. I don't see them getting any further than the second round,
Yeah.
even if everything does go right for them. But yeah, I've gone a little bit high on them, I think. But for a team that I said is going to hit under their wins, I do think they just have that variability where they could be unbelievable. But if they do what they should do and rebuild, they'll go a lot lower. So that's my hot take almost there on them. It's just the heat, like you just never know. But another team then that I really, really like actually is the Hawks. Where they need to improve most from last season, I think that turnovers were massive for them. It's always going to be an issue with Trey Young. They do cause a lot of turnovers as well with Dyson Daniels, the Great Barrier Thief, as they call him, the Australian. He grabs so many steals. He's a great defender, but they turn the ball over so much. Sixth worst in the league, 14.7 per game. And Trey Young accounts for 4.7 of those last year, which was the second worst of his career in terms of steal or turnover numbers. So they really need to clean that up if they're going to go far. What did you have for that?
I said so their defensive actions in the clutch. So like the last 5 minutes in overtime is one of the worst in the league. They let teams score too easy on them coming down the stretch, and it's why they lose a lot of games coming towards the end of games. Those turnovers that you mentioned don't help either, but I think they really need to sort out the last 5 minutes of games. And because they often go into those periods in the lead and just somehow manage to always chuck it away with turnovers or throwing up silly shots or just not being aggressive enough on defense. So they need to get that sorted out this season, definitely.
Yeah, I think that they will do that this year because of who they've signed. I think
Mm.
that they will actually clean that up, and I think they've been smart because they've got some guys that have some experience. Like Kristaps has a lot of experience, and he'll be good for them in clutch moments. And then they've got Mikhail Alexander Walker, who's a good defender and has played in a lot of
Mm.
playoff series with the Timberwolves. So I think they have done a good job kind of combating those issues. But that's a very good point that you can't be good enough if you're not good in the clutch and you keep turning the ball over. So looking at then the roster, who's someone under the radar you have for the team?
Well, I thought my fella was under the radar till you mentioned him there 30 seconds ago, but I have put in Dyson Daniels. And this is going into his second year with the Hawks. Started 76 games last year, which is really, really impressive. I think 76 out of 82 was something else. 14 points a game, 38 minutes a game. I just still think
Yeah.
he's still improving. He's so good defensively. The Great Barrier Reef, as you just said, I think he is absolutely class. Just offers everything, energy, steals, he facilitates. He's still on an upward trajectory, so he can definitely be someone that they rely heavily on again this season.
Yeah, I actually wrote down that I feel like everyone is kind of on him at the moment. So that's why I didn't pick him for this, even though he would be my pick, because I really, really like him. He's probably, apart from Jalen Johnson, he's probably my favorite player for them. But I'm going with Luke Kennard. I think it was a nice addition to what they're trying to do. He gives you around 9 or 10 points a game off the bench consistently across his career. He has some playmaking. He's efficient enough shooting on two and three, so 47.8% and 43.3% last year from two and three respectively. And if you look further back in his career, he did offer 52% from two and 50 from the field, sorry, and 54% from three in 22-23, which is crazy numbers. So
Yeah.
if he can have efficiency like that, it'll go a long way to helping them out. So I like that they brought him in because I think he fits very nicely what they actually want to do. So between himself and Daniels, I think they've got a nice mix of players under the radar to go with their big stars in maybe Kristaps, definitely Trey Young, and definitely Jalen Johnson. So looking at the over under then, 46 and a half, 40 wins last year. What did you have them at?
I have him just under again. I don't see them
Ooh.
adding 7 wins. Now, I do like what they did in summer. You mentioned a couple of them there as well, and I think they could very easily get over 50 wins, but I think they're going to need a lot of luck if they are going to get there. And I just thought backing the under was the smart play on this one.
Yeah, I think 7 wins is a massive jump, and that did put me off a little bit. But with Jalen Johnson going to be fully fit this year, which he wasn't last year, the defense probably going to be one of the best in the league, just in terms of physical hands everywhere. You think of the way that the Timberwolves were over the last number of years. I'm going with the over. I think they could easily be a 50-win team. I think they're very, very good, and I like what they've done a lot, so I'm going with the over. And that kind of ties into my ceiling for them. I think they can get to the finals.
Oh,
The East is weak. I said earlier that there's probably no real team that I would pick to get to to win the finals in the East other than the Cavs. I think they could possibly do it. There's not many teams I would pick to actually get there. I think it's a toss up between the Cavs, Knicks, and I would also put the Hawks in there. I really like what they've done. I just like that defensive formula that they have. I think they could do a Timberwolves on it and be very good defensively, but also have that different style playmaking in Trey Young than you would have with an Anthony Edwards. And you still have Reese Shea, who we haven't even mentioned yet. They have a big expectation on him. He
mm.
can learn from Kristaps. They'll spread the floor. I just really like everything they've done. Now, it could go into week one. Kristaps has some unknown illness that you've never heard of, and Jalen Johnson sprains his ankle 5 times, and it's all in the bin. But I think if healthy, this team has finals written all over them.
Wow. Um, Considering I have them competing for a top four seed as my seeding on them, I'm quite a way off what you are, to be. I don't see them winning too many playoff series. I
Okay.
think they could win a first round, definitely. Second round, depends who they play. As you said, it is a really, really weak division. So who knows what can happen if they can't put any sort of a run together. But they're going to need people to break out. They're going to need the defense to step up. There's so much that they need, which we didn't see last year, and that's why I just can't. I can't put my house on them doing anything special this year.
Yeah, it's fair enough because it is such a big jump. I just think Trey Young did it before of getting them to the East Finals, and this time he has a lot more around him.
Mm.
So I'm gonna go with them as a chance to get there now. You'll have to hold on till our NBA season preview to find out who our picks are, but they're up there for me. Then last team, the LaMelo Ball led Hornets. Obviously, everyone wants to talk about LaMelo. He's one of everybody's favorite for his highlight reels and all that stuff. But where do they need to improve from last season? There's a lot of places, but where especially for you?
So the inavailability of their star players last year is what killed them. LaMelo Ball, Brendan Miller, Grant Williams all played less than 50 games last season. You can't build any sort of consistency if you can't get them all on the court. So they really need to do something there. Maybe it's kind of like maybe bringing the workload less in practice sessions or something. They just need to get something to get their key players on the court and see what you can do from there. But like I think LaMelo played 27 games last season, and he's meant to be the star of this team. So you can't have your star playing a quarter of the games that you're going to play in the season.
Yeah, I agree massively with that. It's fitness plays a massive part, and there was a big letdown for them last year. Obviously, turnovers are up there for them, similar to the
Mm.
Hawks. But my main point is they could not score at all. That falls into being without Lamelo and without Brandon Miller for so long.
Yeah.
But they had the worst offense in the league in terms of scoring 105.1 points per game, and it's the same as the Nets. And we really hammered the Nets on how bad their
Mm.
offense was, so they deserve a similar hammering for me. Looking at someone under the radar, I really, really like Brandon Miller. They have a guy there who's rangy. He can defend. He'll grow into an even better defender. He's an excellent scorer too, with good athleticism. Last year, I picked him for my most improved player, that he would win that award because I thought that they might step to the cusp of a play-in, with him kind of being one of their leaders. But injuries hampered him massively. He only played 27 games, which is really unfortunate. But in the games he did play, 21 points per game, 5 boards, 3.5 assists, and nearly one steal and nearly one block per game, too. So he does everything. He's a massive part of this team. And I think if LaMelo can learn to pass the ball up to other people, too,
Yeah.
and stop taking ridiculous shots, then he's going to show his true ability even more.
Yeah, I really like that shout. I did look at him as well, but when he played, sorry, when he missed so many games last season, I
Mm.
thought putting him in here was a bit of a brave one. So I put in Miles Bridges instead. He's one of the lads that was actually able to stay healthy last year. Played 64 games, 32 minutes a game. When Joe, when everyone else is dropping in and out, it's good to be able to have one player that keeps showing up. If he can stay healthy again this year and they can keep everyone else healthy, then they've the makings of a decent front five, first starting five there. But we'll just have to wait and see. I just really like him. I think he's a really really good player. He anchors a lot of what they can do this year if he can stay fit.
Yeah, he's a good defender as well, which is important. I think they need to be consistently good on defense to really offer up something, especially if their offense isn't going to tick too much. But looking at the over under for wins then, 26 and a half, and last year they had 19. But obviously we mentioned already last year they spent a lot of time without Melo and without Miller, so it's horrible injury luck. They've added Con Canuple, who I think was a really good draft pick. They were lucky that he fell to them
Hmm.
because he's a good 3 point shooter and another very good defender. They've signed Trey Mann, Colin Sexton, and Pat Connaughton, so they've got some decent veterans in there. I think there's no reason why they couldn't push to around 31, 32
Hmm.
wins. My only concern is that they will have to play a lot of small ball because they traded away all their centers and they just have Plumlee left, so they're in a bit of a tough
A tight
situation
spot.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to go more than 26 and a half. It is a big jump from the 19, but they have a lot more pieces there, so I'm thinking low 30s is definitely on.
Yeah, I also went over, and I know I literally just said that 7 wins was a massive jump for the Hawks, but that's jumping from like 45 into 52. This is jumping from 19 to 27. It's not as hard to
Yeah,
jump in that sense of the imagination. I just have to put the caveat in that they need to stay somewhat healthy. They need LaMelo Ball to play 50 games instead of 27 or whatever he did last year. I think it was actually
it was 47, so
47, sorry.
probably
Oh,
be
it was
hoping for
Brandon
60
Miller
off
who
of my
played.
70.
It was Brandon Miller who played 27
Yeah,
last year.
he's so
Um,
key for me. He's so key,
yeah,
Brandon Wood.
if they can stay healthy, then they can definitely add 7 or 8 wins to what they had and get up to that 30-ish bracket. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, they won't be as bad as the Nets anyway.
No, I don't think so. Definitely not, because at least they have some solid veterans there that you can kind of rely on as well as the youngsters,
Mm.
which the Nets do not have. But the ceiling them with the current roster and coach, what do you think?
I think they can get to 30 to 35 wins and maybe squeeze into a play-in, and then lose it. But I think they have the personnel there if they can stay fit. Again, if they can stay fit, the world is their oyster, and they can definitely push for a play-in if they stay fit.
Yeah, I've gone with that they could push to get to a play-in. Inevitably, I don't think they'll get there. I was just looking
Hmm.
at the wins last year. You could have got 39 wins last year and got into the play-in, so it's going to have to be a good push from last year, but I think they could push into the mix there if they keep fit and they do quite well overall and take that jump. I don't think they have enough to get through the play and into the playoffs, so I think we're fairly aligned on that. But yeah, that's three more teams boxed off. We're going to cover every team, of course. So if you're an NBA fan, your team will be covered. Don't you worry. But moving back into a recurring segment from last year too, it's back once again. The power rankings. So another explainer on this one. No more drafts. We'll explain it just in case you wanted it. Basically, it's what it says on the tin. We're going to rank teams, but we're doing it multi-sport. So we're doing two from the NBA, two from the NFL, and two from the Premier League once all three are in full flow. But right now, we've only got the Premier League and the NFL, so we do three from each. That's the way we're going to run it until the NBA comes back. And we want to hear your feedback every single week on these, who you think we left out, who you think we shouldn't have added in. And since you went first with the gun chance, I will go first here, if that's okay.
Perfect.
I've got at number one Liverpool. I think great start to the season. 9 points. They're the only team with 9 points, and they won the league last year. So we have to take that into account because we're running on from last year too. So they have to be number one. For that same argument, the Eagles are number two because they won the Super Bowl and they didn't lose week one. Even though they weren't the most impressive team in the NFL, I think they didn't lose the first week and they just won the Super Bowl. So that has to be bear in mind. Moving on to number three, then in the Bills, it was about to be the Ravens if they held out in that game, but they were really impressive. The Bills in the fourth quarter, an unbelievable comeback in Probably what was the game of the year already, 41-40. I'm going to put them in at number 3. Number 4, I mentioned them already when we were talking football, but Chelsea, I think, were impressive this year so far. Unbeaten in the league, 2 wins and a draw. They've been very impressive, and I think they'll have a good season overall. Number 5 then is the Packers. I thought they were really impressive against the Lions. There's a few other teams I thought about, but the Packers took down a very good team from last year in the division. I think they deserve a shout in at 5. Number 6 then is Crystal Palace, another unbeaten team. I think it's a bit of a shout because they're a little bit further down, but that's because they had 2 draws. They were really impressive in their last game, losing it now. They beat Villa 3-0. Really, really impressive. They also had a draw with Chelsea in the first game of the season. They beat Liverpool in the Community Shield. So, in general, a really good start after winning the FA Cup last year. So, they're my number 6. So, that's my top 6 there. What have you got for us, Shane?
So I have quite similar to you. I think with the fact it was the week 1 of the NFL, we are always going to be pretty much aligned on those. But I have Liverpool at number 1. Why wouldn't I? Unbeaten in the league, champions. They haven't even seen Alexander Isak put on a jersey yet, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I put the Bills in at number 2 because Josh Allen is a freak of nature. He shouldn't be allowed to do what he does every single week. Like it's crazy. The stuff he pulls out, and they're a good watch, unfortunately for us as new teams from New York fans as well. At
Yeah.
number 3, I have Chelsea. I'd love to have just put Estebao in here on his own because I think the man is an absolute. He's a spark plug. I think he looks absolutely unbelievable. But Chelsea have been quite decent from the off here, and as you said, you just said you'd move them up to second in your Premier League. I don't know if I'd go that high, but I think they're definitely nailed on for a top 4 finish. At 4, I have a rogue one. You thought your Palace one was rogue. I put in Everton.
Yeah, like
I think they were caught in a hop in the first game against Leeds, but Jack Grealish looks like the Jack Grealish of Aston Villa. They just look like they're having fun, which you can't say about Everton for a long while, to be fair. Kieran and Dewsbury Hall looks like he's having fun.
he looks
Njao
unreal.
looks absolutely class, and then Jack Grealish obviously having the time of his life into a new stadium as well, a new home. They look like they're up for this year, and I don't know where I put them to finish, but I think they could push for a top 10 this year. And to finish up, then I have the Eagles and the Packers at 5 and 6. Don't need to say much more than you already said on them.
Yeah, I like the Everton one because I actually also was going to pick them until I went with Palace, and I said, no, you need to consider like Palace last year, the end, and the Community Shield. But Everton were up there for me too. I agree, they were definitely caught on a hop in the first week, and since then they've been really impressive and solid. And still to add Dibbling to that team as well, who's another creative force. So yeah, Jake O'Brien playing well there for them, but not able to do the
Yeah,
business for Ireland. But yeah, fairly similar as you said. Week 1 is always going to be similar enough, but there is some mix up in the order we have too, so that is interesting to see, and it'll definitely fluctuate as the season goes on. With the NFL, more weeks go by, and things are going to definitely change a lot. So let us know what you think of our power rankings. That's what we all we've got for the week. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode, got a usual segments back from last season and gone chance in the power rankings. Hopefully you're happy to see those back. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. We really appreciate that if you could do it. Shane, I'll throw it over to you.
yeah. Thanks, lads. We'll see you next week.
Nice one, lads.